Long before, Pokémon was a global empire firing off regular releases of its established, beloved, and dare I say well-trodden game formula, there were Pokémon Red and Blue. A first draft at the monster-raising titan by Game Freak, full of rough edges, bad translations, questionable design choices, and completely unbalanced gameplay that made psychic types nearly unkillable. But these developers got a lot more things right than they got wrong, or we would not be here today still talking about Pokémon. Hello, I'm Mothy, Jimothy for long, and I enjoy pulling at the threads of game design to analyze exactly how these developers wanted us to experience their games. In my as-intended video format, I play video games in the tongue-in-cheek, proper way, and today I'm visiting Pokémon Red and or Blue. An RPG like Pokémon is full of tons of choices. Which Pokémon do you use? Who learns your HMs? What order do you want to tackle the mid-game? And before all that, will you be playing the Red or Blue version? The quick answer to all this is, of course, do what you want, but I think there's a little more correct answer to these questions if you dig in. This series examines the design of a game's quests and challenges and pieces together breadcrumbs left by the developers to try to determine the intended method and order. In Pokemon, that might look like a certain Pokemon becoming catchable right before a gym that it does really well in, or carefully placed TMs to go along with nearby catchable Pokemon. We're also going to do some theory crafting to figure out what the hell Porygon's purpose is in life. Specifically, this run is looking to include how to achieve type coverage against all gyms, the Elite Four, and your rival. In some cases, there's one clear best method, and we will cover that. Related, every single trainer battle. Kind of. Walking y'all fully through each of the hundreds of encounters is not feasible or enjoyable in this format, but I will bunch up the encounters in each area, recommending overall strategies and calling out exceptions. Red versus Blue debate. Again, most sources you find will recommend picking a version if you like a certain exclusive Pokemon that's in it, but I look at specific strategic differences between the games. Finally, and I'm excited about this, all NPC trades. You ever been playing Pokemon when some dude asks for a Pokemon you haven't even seen yet in exchange for his Tangela or whatever? This run is going to complete every single NPC trade in the game, planning our route to make them happen as naturally as possible, while searching for the upside of why you would want to make each of these trades. What's not included? Catching them all. This is not the video for that. The focus here is more on strategy and pathing to reach the credits, not fill the Pokedex. EVs, IVs, and stat min-maxing. On the one hand, these values are hidden on purpose, so we treat our Pokemon more like living pets and less like a spreadsheet. And on the other hand, I just don't care. The single-player campaign does not necessitate min-maxing. And notably, Pokemon Yellow version. One of the questions I wanted to examine was if Red or Blue was strictly better than the other from a strategic perspective, and Yellow makes too many changes to be part of that discussion. But hey, if y'all enjoy this video, I think a follow-up would be fascinating. Let's get into it. We picked up the potion from the PC in our room to help win the first rival battle, since it's easy to lose that at level 5. Try to leave Pallet Town, and Professor Oak summons us to go choose our starter Pokemon. Charmander is completely unjustifiable given the first gym's use of rock Pokemon, and not much better thereafter. Squirtle is neutral for Misty and bad for Surge, whereas Bulbasaur is still strong for Misty and resists the electric damage from Surge, hence Bulbasaur is the clear best starter Pokemon. Shout out to my patrons and my Twitch subs who helped me come up with names for the team, by the way. This little guy is called Taco. Our rival picks a fight when we leave. His Charmander is brutalizing my Taco, so it's worth spending our potion to force the victory since XP is not that easy to come by in these first couple of levels. On the way to Viridian City, nab the free potion from this marketer. We'll inevitably run into a few wild Pokemon on our initial trips between Pallet and Viridian, and I recommend fighting those. We can ping-pong between Mom's house and the Poké Center in Viridian for healing on either side. The mart here gives us a parcel for Oak, so head back to Pallet Town now to deliver that. Oak then hands us our Pokédex, and Rival drops a hint about getting a town map from his sister. Real talk, inventory space is more important than this map will ever be, but this feels like a little micro quest given by the game, so of course I pick one up for the content. Head back to Viridian, beating up rats and pigeons. Taco dinged level 10 by my arrival this time, but don't worry, this initial grinding is the only grind we'll have to do on this run, and it's actually for important content later. You must not buy Pokeballs now, even though the mart finally sells them, because if we head west of town, our rival, whom I named Snoopy, challenges us to fight his level 9 Pidgey and level 8 Charmander. If we can manage to solo this fight with only our starter Pokemon, Professor Oak will give us a prize. Leech Seed helped Taco stay alive through the brutal Pidgey fight, which cost me a potion. His Charmander was much easier, lacking any fire moves still. I had Taco plant a Leech Seed, capping his effective damage at 3 per turn, then limped to victory through accuracy and attack-reduced tackles. Return once more to Oak with our sad, lonely Taco, and he implies that we're doing a bad job not catching anything yet, so he hands us 5 free pity Pokeballs. What a cost savings. With that Pokeball gift out of the way, we're finally at liberty to expand the team. And we still want to grind a little more to level 13 before Brock so that Taco learns his first Grass-type move, so let's combine those goals. Hunt for a Spearow now to add to the team and beat up things that aren't Spearow. This little guy is Jeffrey. Flying type carries pretty hard in the early game against the many bug and grass opponents, and since Pidgey's Gust move is perplexingly normal typed, Spearow with Peck is the clear better bird to catch. We also need one more Pokemon here, which gives a 1 point in favor of playing a red version. One Nidoran male is needed for a trade later. Both Nidoran genders are available here, but the split in blue is 95% female and in red, 95% male. Then head up to our first dungeon, Viridian Forest. It's got our first 3 trainer battles, consisting universally of bug Pokemon that give Jeffrey some very easy initial XP to start getting him closer to team level. Weedles can poison you, but there are a few antidotes carefully placed in the area if that comes up, and 1 potion near the exit to get you over the finish line. But we have one more catch to make before exiting. Run around until we find a 5% encounter rate Pikachu and welcome Dan Flashes to the team. Based on the sheer number of flying and water opponents throughout the entire game, Electric is one of the most important types to have on the team, and it is a long time before another option if we don't collect a Pikachu right now. Once we reach Pewter City, buy a few potions as a convenience when adventuring and an escape rope. Then head straight into Brock's gym. Taco now has Vine Whip thanks to our grind, which is strong against both of this junior trainer's Pokemon. I swapped in Dan Flashes to help share XP. The gym leader, Brock, is even easier than his subordinate, since as ground and rock types, his Geodude and Onix are quadruply weak to grass. Taco gets Geodude in 1 Vine Whip, and same for Onix, while I swap around Dan Flashes to continue getting him exposure XP. And that makes our first Indigo League badge. If you've made it this far, would you please consider liking the video or leaving a comment so that YouTube knows I did a good job? This video took a tremendous amount of work, and your interaction means a great deal to me. Thank you for your consideration. Route 3 to the east starts with some flying types, which Dan Flashes is now able to contribute on. You'll face the classic early game mix of types here: flying, bug, poison, and normal. Flying and bug are covered by the team, but normal and poison won't have answers for a long time, so Rattatas are actually one of the most lethal opponents for a while. The only possible fighting move by now, if we wanted to be super effective against normal, would be to grind a Nidorina to level 50 for double kick. It will actually be a running theme how much they gatekeep fighting moves. The outlier encounter here is a level 14 Jigglypuff, who is pretty dangerous. I'm asleep, she's paralyzed, and Thundershock is disabled, so I do all I can and growl her attack down. Beware this early Jigglypuff. At the next Poké Center, a suspicious man offers to sell us a Magikarp for 500 Poké Euros. Say yes, cause why not? We need 10 Pokédex entries for a key item later, and especially if you're not catching random junk for trades like I am, this Magikarp helps hit that goal. Then he goes immediately and permanently to computer jail. Head into Dungeon 2, Mount Moon. Trainers in here have bug and plant types for Jeffrey to peck, Zubats for Dan Flashes to shock, and rock types and a Sandshrew for Taco. There's also a problematic level 14 Clefairy fight in here that mirrors the Jigglypuff outside. Gee, these cute normal types are kinda strong. I feel like we should get one? Clefairies are a 1% encounter on the top floor, 4% in the middle, and 6% if we look on the bottom floor. Paralyze one, wound it, and catch one for the team. Welcome, Malort. Then use our escape rope to heal up and start integrating her. Malort does not solve an obvious problem for our team, but it fills an important role. It's a blank canvas move-wise, and it's got a solid body that can survive an attack from a stupid Rattata. Immediately teach her the Water Gun and Mega Punch TMs that we picked up in Mount Moon, and we have a pretty dangerous ally. Rain on this hiker to ruin his day, then in the northwest corner of the ground floor is a Moonstone. Imagine finding that here. Waste no time upgrading to Clefable, marking our first evolution of the run. There's one standout trainer in Mount Moon who is very dangerous. This Rocket with nothing but a level 16 Raticate. It actually took me a few attempts to succeed this fight, and I ultimately had success sacrificing Dan Flashes to stick a Paralyze, then getting lucky that Mega Punch did not miss back-to-back from Alert. I celebrated by letting Taco punt this wild Geodude, and that was actually the tipping point to evolve him into Ivysaur. Sweet. Our final battle is the Super Nerd, who leads with a Grimer, a poison type with high health. I big-brained this by letting Jeffrey Leer, so Grimer actually blew its Disable on Leer, and I was free to peck it down. After the fight, a choice. We can claim either of these fossils. Helix is our pick. Speak to the nerd after, and he tells us about a faraway lab on Cinnabar Island that might be able to resurrect fossils. I am counting this as a quest, FYI. There really aren't many in the game, so I need this. Phew, we're finally free. Grab the prominent but invisible Great Ball, then limp into Cerulean City and heal up our battered team. There's a man asking to trade Pokemon here. He offers a Jinx for our Poliwhirl. That is a much more significant ask than he realizes, so we'll have to come back later. We could fight Misty now, but the content north of town is lower level, so that's my signal to head north. Snoopy wants to fight again. This time we have electric tech for his bird, who still lacks any flying moves. He's picked up an Abra who has no attacks, so give that XP to whoever needs it. His new Rattata is going to be his most dangerous Pokemon for a while, and his Charmander finally has learned Ember. Our water-gunning Malort offers a nice counter to that. Continue up after this, and don't be shy about blowing cash on potions to smooth out this next section. Nugget Bridge is a series of 5 trainers, followed by a Rocket and an honorary 7th dude who watches from the grass. Our opponents here are the usual early game type mix, but this one guy has a level 18 Mankey that Jeffrey preys on as a fighting type. We would love a fighting Pokemon to help with all these OP rats, and Mankey is available early on if we play Red version, but there's a slight issue. Mankey does not learn a single fighting move from level up in Red-Blue, so it's not an actual factor in our Red-Blue debate. In fact, give that point to Blue because they get Sandshrew in place, and that has value against Surge. Dick around in the grass after winning this gauntlet because we're hunting for an Abra. They always teleport out of battle on turn 1, but Malort's Sing is a good way to keep them captive. Or if you get mad when that misses twice, just chuck the Great Ball that we recently acquired. We're not raising this thing, don't worry. The path east to Bill from here has many more trainers, mostly with the same spread of types we've been seeing. The outlier is this youngster with a level 17 Slowpoke that Dan Flashes gets to shock down. Finally, at Bill's cabin, we discover he has the Flight himself to combine with a Pokemon. Help separate his cells, but... Wait, where did the Pokemon go? That wasn't a Marowak mother, was it? Bill thanks us for our help with his SS Ann ticket. Then, if we leave and re-enter, we can look at his PC for a sneak peek at Eevee and its 3 evolutions. I feel like this is relatively uncommon, right? Did most of you leave and then return to Bill's cottage to check out his computer? Now let's face Misty. Dan Flashes has super effective attacks against this whole place, but Taco has super effective attacks while also resisting water moves. Through this video, I'll call it hard countering when we both deal double and receive half from an enemy. Anyway, I sent in Spearow on the subordinate trainers, which is a neutral matchup, but he's been falling a little behind, and he craves the XP. Against Misty herself, I gave Star You to Dan Flashes, and Star Me to Taco. Even at 2x, it's surprising how many Vine Whips it took to defeat her. Our prize, besides our second badge, is TM11 Bubble Beam. I consider this bad design from the devs because Water Gun came so recently, and there were no other attack TMs in between. Nevertheless, overwrite Malort's Water Gun with this strict upgrade. Then fight this Rocket behind the Burgled house. He's got a Machop who knocks out Spearow since Karate Chop is unfairly normal type with a near 100% crit rate, but Dan Flashes picks up the XP. For winning, we get TM28 Dig, a powerful ground type move that would solve for poison types. I didn't bother because none of my current party can learn it, but I do consider this careful TM placement right before the electric gym. Leave Cerulean to the south and enter the underground tunnel now. This young child offers our first trade of the game, their Nidoran female for our Nidoran male that we've been lugging around since Route 2. Make his day and trade for Spot, though we won't be raising Spot. Back outside to the south, a few trainers separate us from Vermilion City. There's Bugs for Jeffrey, then a Squirtle for Taco. Malort shows her really important role on the team by handling Rattatas for us. The 4th trainer is a bug catcher who actually bothered evolving his Butterfree, and this victory gets Jeffrey to level 19, the max that we can allow him to reach because they evolve at 20, and we actually need to trade somebody our Spearow. There's several birds for Dan Flashes to chew up, and the finale on this route is a Raticate that miraculously does not crit and or flinch me with Hyperfang for once, and Malort counters with a crit of her own to win. Vermilion City has a lot of errands for us. First, bin that Nidoran. Meet the fishing guru who gives us an old rod, which is useless in Red-Blue except for Magikarps if you did not indulge earlier. You're better off saving the item space. In the center of town is our second trade. A young child offers a Farfetch'd for a Spearow. Send in Jeffrey in exchange for Ducks, which is a pretty big upgrade, if you ignore Fearow. Ducks will never pull off the sick Drill Peck Spearow can, but at least he can spare us having to teach Cut to Taco. Lastly, visit the Pokemon fan club and listen to the old man drone on about horses for a bike voucher, another vague kind of quest. We're not allowed to challenge the gym here until learning Cut, which necessitates a trip to the SS Ann, our 3rd dungeon. There's no avoiding, we'll have to deboard at some point to use the Pokemon Center, but buying some super potions first can help smooth things out. Drop off any items you can live without too, because there will be a lot to pick up. The SS Ann has a ton of trainers on it, but they're not terribly diverse type-wise. There's a lot of water for Dan and Taco, but make sure Dan gets any Tentacools because of their poison type and any Goldines because he resists their peck. There's a handful of fire types for Malort to bubble beam down, and a couple Machops for ducks, but geez, this level 21 with low kick hurts. Loot-wise, TM08 Body Slam is the big prize. It can overwrite Mega Punch for Malort now. Body Slam does great damage at 100% accuracy with a chance to paralyze, and is honestly busted being given away so early. Don't miss the Trash Great Ball either. Taco and Malort both ended up paralyzed from stray Pikachus on the second floor just before the rival fight. I thought hard about my odds if I didn't heal first, then realized Snoopy's levels are significantly below mine after churning through this whole luxury cruise ship, and I head right in. His Pidgeotto can do dangerous damage, but paralysis from Dan gets me through that. Next, his Rattata is now Eradicate, which I passed off on Taco because everyone else has a job. After 2 Vine Whips, Snoopy potioned the rat, and after 2 more, Taco won even through paralysis. His Abra is now a Kadabra. I sent in a Wounded Ducks, and this fight was funny. We each took initial shots, then I healed, missed 2 Fury attacks, landed the third, and finished him off with the Peck, while he blew turns teleporting, disabling, and teleporting again before using Confusion, which I was able to tank. His Charmander is now a Charmeleon, but Malort one-shots it with a Bubble Beam crit. GG. The captain is too sick to teach us how to cut, so he gives us HM01, which teaches how to cut. I wonder if this makes more sense with different translation. Teach cut to ducks overriding Fury attack. It's more accurate and more damage. You still have that Abra, right? With Malort in front, head through Diglett Tunnel now. Regular Diglets can be hard to flee from, so just blast them with Bubble Beams. On the far side of the tunnel, in this little house, a young man asked for our third trade of the game, his Mr. Mime for our Abra. This is a perfectly reasonable trade to make. Marcel the Mime comes with an attack move and doesn't have a final evolution locked behind trading, so he's an excellently placed Psychic type. He's a great early solution against poison types that we won't be using, mostly just because he would get replaced pretty soon. Then walk south, have ducks cut a tree, and enter a larger building where Professor Oak's aid gives us HM01 Flash if we've got 10 types of Pokemon. This is where buying that Magikarp could help, since we haven't been catch heavy, but we actually ended up with 12 in the Pokedex by now thanks to doing those NPC trades. There's also a second Moonstone around here that we will want to bank. Teach Flash immediately to who else but Dan Flashes. It's a bit of a wasted slot on Malort, but a Pikachu doesn't really need 4 move slots, so Flash feels perfectly designed to go on a Pikachu. Interesting to note that Marcel can learn Flash too. He's carefully placed to be your Flasher. Ugh. Speaking of carefully placed Pokemon, head back through Diglett Tunnel now, taking care to find and catch a Dugtrio. 2 Bubble Beams get it low, and I throw that trash Great Ball from the SSN to add Dostoevsky to the team, seeing as how he's underground. Stick Marcel in the PC, then let's go terrorize Lieutenant Surge. Dostoevsky came with built-in dig, so I didn't even need to blow the TM. Not only is it super effective against electric types, but electric moves can't touch ground. The degree to which Dugtrio trivializes this gym is silly. Dig has 10 PP, and I spend 6 of them one-shotting the Pokemon of every subordinate trainer in the gym. With his top-notch speed, they don't even touch him, save the 7 damage one time a Pikachu got uppity with Quick Attack. Nobody but me cares, but I took pains to align the trainers between 2 trash cans instead of in the intersections to make it easier to walk around and find the switches after. After finding 2 trash can switches, the doors open and Dostoevsky gets to beat up Lieutenant Surge. Voltorb takes 1 dig. Pikachu takes 1 dig. And Raichu takes 1 dig, all before they act for a flawless victory out of Dostoevsky. For winning, we get TM24 Thunderbolt. I strongly suggest you do not blow this on your Pikachu since it's the best electric move in the game and we cannot get another copy. Yeah, sorry to reveal it like this, but Dan Flashes is not a permanent team member. In fact, nobody we currently have is. Try to guess which Pokemon is the first to permanently join. And on that note, drop off Dostoevsky in the PC. He's not a bad Pokemon to use for a while, but like Marcel, since he has a replacement coming soonish, I didn't bother throwing away more XP on him. Celadon City's gym will be our next badge, but there's quite a lot of content until then. Head east of Vermilion to take on the Route 11 trainers. This route is big for Dan Flashes and Taco, with 1 water trainer for them to demolish, plus a lot of easy electric Pokemon. They're kind of fake electric though, since they like to tackle instead of do Thundershocks. That means ducks can actually safely fight them too, and he also takes out a pair of grass types. Just be aware the higher level Magnemites use Sonic Boom, whose flat 20 damage can be pretty hard hitting at this point. I also noticed Taco's power level dropping off significantly here, so I found myself using Poison and Leech Seed to assist in just regular kills. Malort, for her part, got to eat a Sandshrew and a pair of fire Pokemon. At the eastern gate, upstairs, is an Oak aide who will gift the item finder for catching 30 Pokemon. As of scripting this video, I kind of regret not making this a part of the run, but there's just so much to cover that I had to make some cuts. Here is a list of the most reasonable 32 catch by now if you would like to run it yourself. There's also a man looking to trade his Nidorina for our Nidorino. I question the inclusion of this trade alongside the previous Nidoran trade. This is one we're going to have to come back to later though, because we're going to get an unconventional Nidorino instead of raising one up. A Snorlax blocks the path to Lavender Town, so it looks like we've got to head through Cerulean and Rock Tunnel. Perfect time to cash in our bike voucher though. Now, am I the only one who doesn't like using the bike in these games at all? It goes so fast, you just keep hitting walls, it's not conducive to speaking to NPCs and exploring, your head looks flat, and honestly the loud music just hits my brain really wrong. Cut a tree east of town and start down Route 9. Malort, Taco, and surprisingly Dan Flashes are about to get a lot of XP carrying Rock Tunnel, so do what you can here to level up Ducks, and don't be afraid to let him pull ahead a few levels. There are a lot of grass and bug types on this route for him to pack, 2 fire types for Malort, and a few rock types for Taco. This level 23 Meowth right before the Pokemon Center is actually a good challenge, outspeeding the fast Dan Flashes and landing some nasty bites. Heal up and grab an Ether if you've got one stored. We're going to need a lot of Vine Whips and Bubble Beams in Rock Tunnel. Worth noting, this patch of grass outside has Voltorbs, our first electric type access since level 3 Pikachus in the Viridian Forest, though they're not well positioned in the near future. Grab a hidden Super Potion by the entrance and head into Rock Tunnel. RT is a lot more straightforward than Mount Moon. It's mostly just a gauntlet of trainer battles. Fulfill Dan Flash's destiny by flashing to light the place up. I was worried about him not having targets in here, but there's actually 6 Slowpokes and 5 birds with his name on them. The Slowpokes are pretty stout though, so they will cost you in Super Potions as you spend a couple of Thunder Shocks to kill. Machops are available to catch in here, the first fighting type available in the blue version and the first in either version who actually learns a fighting move, though not until level 20. But this species is intended for people with friends and a link cable, or rich parents who got them a Game Boy and a Game Boy Color, so we have to say no to Machop. Meanwhile, Taco and Malort are eating up the countless Onixes, Geodudes, and even Gravelers by this point. Beware, at level 21, the Geodude family gets access to Self-Destruct, which can easily faint your Pokemon and rob you of the XP, so don't get cute with them. Stick to 4X grass and water moves. I spent an Ether refreshing Vine Whip 2/3 of the way through the cave, cause that was stretched pretty thin here. Dux has been mostly benched inside the tunnel, but he comes out for a couple of plant Pokemon toward the exit. Outside is a trainer with a Pidgeotto, who is decidedly less scary at this level since they've learned Whirlwind and they waste turns doing that. Wipe up the final hikers, and then head into Lavender Town. The Mart finally sells Revives as well as Great Balls. We will want a couple to help with some mid-game caches. There's nothing else to do in town for now, so head west on Route 8 towards Saffron/Celadon. Route 8 is back to having a good mix of types. There's quite a lot of normal, which we could theoretically be handling with a Machop from Rock Tunnel, but a Clefable with Body Slams handles them pretty smoothly. There's also 2 fire types for Malort, some birds for Dan Flashes, water for Taco, and a whole bunch of poison for whoever is behind. Mostly ducks by now. This patch of grass has an opinion on the red versus blue version debate. Vulpix in blue version or Growlithe in red version is the first fire type available in the game unless you started with Charmander like a dumbass. Fire type is just not very good in Gen 1, but Ninetales and Arcanine have decent stats that are comparable to each other if you want to force fire. However, there's no Flamethrower TM. Vulpix learns it at level 35, allowing you to then evolve her into Ninetales, whereas Growlithe takes until level 50 to learn Flamethrower, meaning you have to wait until level 50 for your Arcanine not to suck, making Vulpix overall more usable and scoring a weak point for blue version. Pass through the underground tunnel, then arrive in Celadon City and get ready for some major team changes. Head up to the top floor of Celadon Mansion and literally pick up a free Eevee for the team. Welcome, Reigns. Next stop is the department store, and we have a lot of shopping to do. The TM seller on floor 2 sells a bunch of crap, plus TM17 Submission, which is the first fighting move that we could possibly get for our Mankey if we play red. Buy a copy, but keep it on hand. It's also time to stock up on Super Repels. 30 would not be too many, but 8 is enough for now. The 4th floor is huge for content on this run. Buy 2 Poke Dolls from the man, as well as 2 Thunderstones. Yeah, I guess our EV decision is showing. Go ahead and evolve both Pokemon now. Electric type has been good to us so far and will continue to be of extremely high value through the late game. Not only does Jolteon completely outclass Raichu in stats, but it doesn't have a slot wasted on Flash, it's shitty tech against Sabrina, and most importantly, we actually have to ship Dan Flashes in a trade later. This is why we couldn't spend the Thunderbolt TM earlier. Jolteon only comes with Tackle and won't even learn Thundershock for 6 levels, so give him Thunderbolt to make him the bane of birds and fish. On the rooftop is a thirsty girl. Buy one of each drink from the vending machine and hand them to her for 2 powerful TMs, Ice Beam and Rock Slide, and a third worst TM, Tri Attack. No one's asking, but I theory crafted Cloyster as the only justifiable recipient of Tri Attack, since he has a nice attack stat but can't learn any of the better normal moves like Body Slam. Then buy a crap ton of fresh waters. Hydration is important, y'all. These heal the same amount as super potions at 29% of the cost, so waters will serve us as cost-effective healing for a long time. Then buy 1 final water as a quest item, cause we don't want that coming out of our personal stash. At this point, I put Dan Flashes in the PC, then headed west. Cut a bush and walk through the gate to meet a bed-rotting Zoomer chick who offers us HMO2 Fly to leave her alone. Teach that to ducks both for the utility and as a strong new attack move. Now let's fill that ground slot that I promised when we binned Dostoevsky. Get the coin case from this unfortunate man in the restaurant, then head to the game corner. As luck would have it, there's a Nidorino at the prize window for 1,200 coins. The game corner is actually one strong vote for playing blue version over red. To redeem all 6 prize Pokemon in red, Abra, Clefairy, Dratini, Porygon, Scyther, and Nidorina costs 20,179 coins. In blue, redeeming all 6, except the Scyther is a Pinsir and the Nidorina is a Nidorino, is only 15,670, much less. There are 280 free coins on the ground and from NPC gifts to get you started, but we've either got to gamble for an hour or just blow 19k directly on coin purchases to hit the 1,200 for Nidorino. I don't care what transpires at Silphco, Team Rocket has already canonically won if I'm dropping 19k on a Nidorino. He's hard-coded to come in at level 17. Feel free to raise him, but don't go past level 22. We're gonna trade him for that Nidorina back on Route 11, and we don't want Nidoqueen to miss learning Body Slam when she levels up to 23. How convenient then that we just learned Fly. Go trade our new Nidorino for a Nidorina named Terry. Great. Retrieve our stored Moonstone and use it on Terry right away to upgrade her into Nidoqueen. She's still level 17, but as a trade Pokemon, she'll grow fast. We can help her out with that by teaching the Rock Slide TM. Hand her Submission too, and we finally have a way, even if crappy, to bully the ever-present normal types, only 4 cities too late. Also, this is our first permanent member of the team. This next sequence is something kind of crazy that I cooked up in the Mothy Labs. We've been good about performing every NPC trade so far. All but that one in Cerulean who asked for a Poliwhirl an eternity before we could ever actually acquire one. Well, we now have a path to getting a Poliwhirl if we take a pretty weird path. Make sure you've got those repels, some ethers, a Poké Doll, and maybe some Paralyze heals. We're headed to Lavender Town to 360 No Scope the Pokemon Tower. The second floor here has an immediate Snoopy encounter. His most dangerous Pokemon, Raticate, has foolishly been cashed in now for a Gyarados and an Execute. Rains with Thunderbolt immediately handles his Pidgeotto, then Dux flies down the new Execute in 1. His Gyarados is 4 times weak to Electric and is a big reason why Electric retains its value through the endgame. His Kadabra still likes wasting moves on Teleport while Dux flies him down. Now, throughout this fight, I'd been swapping in and out Terry to share XP, and she's level 19 by the time Snoopy sends out his Charmeleon. Terry is actually a hard counter to this with Rock Slide, and she manages to solo the 6 levels higher Charmeleon to hit level 20. Now the rest of Pokemon Tower. It's foul with trainers, and the long path twists a lot, so keep Repel online. We can't even deal with Wild Ghosts if we wanted to without the Sylph Scope. Against the 14 Ghastlies and 2 Haunters from trainers in the area, Terry needs just 2 Rock Slides to handle. Though between the moves' 90% accuracy and often being paralyzed and or confused, it can be sketchy pulling off 2 hits. Rock Slide's low PP and tendency to miss is why we brought those ethers, but once we hit the 4th floor, a purified area on the floor acts as a Poké Center, so of course we abuse this to top off between every encounter. Rains can handle the 2nd or 3rd Ghost in any battles that have more than 1 opponent apiece, so that we don't need to be healing Terry mid-combat. There's an escape rope on the 4th floor that I'm gonna call a mistake. So, all dungeons in this game are good at giving you a carefully placed escape rope for getting out at the end, but this one is not necessary because winning the dungeon warps us out anyway. Then, just before reaching the top floor, a combat encounter starts against an irate ghost. Uh-oh. Speedrunners will know that a Poké Doll actually handles this encounter for you without needing the Sylph Scope. Now, apparently there's debate as to whether this tactic is intended by the devs, with nothing highly convincing on either side. So let me be perfectly clear. What matters most is that I feel that this is a valid tactic and not a glitch. A cute doll that calms wild Pokemon. Why wouldn't this work against an ornery Pokemon ghost? Nothing is broken or out of place about this. I feel like it's clever tech intended by the devs, which puts it in the video. This place was great for XP, and by the top floor, Terry is already level 27. The top floor has a few rocket grunts, the final one having Eradicate. It's time to test out the strat. After missing twice while the rat politely tail whips, Terry finally lands a crunchy submission and takes the rat out in one. Is this efficient? No, it misses so much and the self-damage does hurt. But is it the best solution the game offers us to a question that it poses? Yes. Reach Mr. Fuji, who teleports us out to his house, and speak to him there for the Poké Flute. If you noticed, we actually completed almost that entire tower with just Reigns and Terry. It's time to move on from Malort, whose beefy generalist role is now covered by Terry, and from Taco, whose role is just straight up not needed anymore. Kinda fitting that we replaced one Moonstone evolution with another. Seeing only 3 Pokemon on the team is kind of alarming, but remember, we're close to fixing that. Head south of Lavender, newly armed with the Poké Flute. There's a few fishermen for Reigns to bully, then we reach that Snorlax. Wake him up with the Poké Flute and put Terry to work. Our scuffed fighting strategy should have worked here, except that we missed 3 submissions in a row. More like sub-missin'. Speaking of, is your sub missin'? i.e., please consider subscribing to my channel if you're enjoying the content and would like to see more. I have a whole series of playing games as intended, as well as other essays and challenge runs. Thanks. Snorlax robs Terry of the victory after she finally does land one, but Reigns finishing him off is better for the XP anyway. There's one more rocker here with an exploding Voltorb and Electrode that catches me off guard and almost results in an L, but Reigns clings to life and I'm good to acquire the Super Rod from Fishing Brother number 2. I originally had a long aside on the fishing rods, but I'll spare you. The gist was, the devs definitely made a design mistake by making the Super Rod much more easily available than the Good Rod, even if you're not rushing it like I just did. Fly to Celadon City and start fishing in the municipal water. If we were given the Good Rod in a sane time frame, we could have caught a level 10 Poliwag in, say, Cerulean City and raised it to level 25 when it evolves naturally. But no, we just get to Super Rod a Poliwhirl up directly at an illegally low level 23, then fly to Cerulean and immediately cash that in for a Jinx named Lola. Jinx is an Ice Psychic type who has very few weaknesses. Pokémon Red and Blue heavily encourage you to raise an Ice type for the endgame, and Lola fills that role for us while also covering the abundant Poison types in the mid-game. Welcome to our second permanent team member. If you're wondering if I meant to raise a team full of only trade Pokémon, no. But when a role I want to fill happens to be coverable by a trade, then absolutely, yes, trading is a core part of Pokémon that we are intended to experience. Following a normal game progression, your team might be in the low 30s after doing the Game Corner Dungeon, Erica's Gym, and Pokemon Tower before you get the Super Rod. Even then, if you drop everything and pursue the Poliwhirl trade, Lola is coming in 10 levels below your party. And God forbid you took the Cycle Road to Fuchsia instead, discover the Good Rod first, and begin raising a Poliwag from level 10 at that stage. All that is to say, by taking this unconventional route with the Pokédoll, you can get a Jinx when she's only 6 to 7 levels below your party and can be integrated without grinding. Teach her Ice Beam from TM, and then we didn't do all this work to have her not beat ass, so we may as well go all the way. Give the Saffron Guard some water to enter the city, and pick up TM29 Psychic and teach her that as well. As one final note, this Pokédoll to early Super Rod sequence is also useful if you feel like experiencing the mid-game with any of the other water Pokemon like Psyduck, Slowpoke, Shelder, Krabby, or Poliwhirl who are normally gate-kept until pretty late. Alright, can we play the game? It's either Erica's Gym or the Rocket Game Corner Hideout next. Giovanni's levels are lower than Erica's, so I headed there first, which was a huge mistake. Bring Ethers since Psychic and Ice both go hard in here, and Lola only has 10 uses of each. This dungeon just crumples to Lola, justifying the effort it took to grab her. Altogether, there are 14 Poison and Fighting types to Psychic down, 3 Flyers for Ice Beam, and a few Drowsies whose Psychic attacks she resists as she counters with Ice. That's not to mention the big helping of rats that she can one-shot even type neutrally, though I let Terry handle most of those with Submissin. When it comes to Giovanni, Ice one-shots Onix, and it should have handled Rhyhorn, but I messed around trying to distribute XP and made a slight mess of it because, Terry at level 31 is disobeying orders. His Kangaskhan is his scariest opponent, but Reigns just handles that in a single Thunderbolt before it can act. Giovanni drops the Sylph Scope when we win, which we don't need at all, having Pokédolled our way to Mr. Fuji, meaning this entire dungeon was technically optional. Escape rope out of here. One has again been provided by the dungeon. Bin your excess items and go take on the Celadon Gym. I told you there was a lot of content between Surge and Erica. Earlier I had mentioned how doing Erica second was a mistake. Yeah, my Pokemon are all starting to disobey me now because they came from trades and they're hitting level 31. Lola is going to be very busy in the next few areas, so I try to let Ducks handle most of this gym through Fly. Turns out there's quite a lot more than 15 opponent Pokemon in this gym, so not only is he disobeying, but we run out of flies with several trainers left. But Ice is also strong to grass. Good thing Lola's only level 30, right? I tag in Rains, whose electric moves have a hard time damaging plant Pokemon, but at least he's obeying orders because I raised him, from the tender age of 25. I thought about at least healing up before challenging Erica, but that's for cowards. Let's boogie. Against Victory Belt, poor poisoned Rains gets caught up in a wrap loop for a while, and I blow a few combat waters trying to stay alive. Oh, nice. He can finally learn Thunder Shock. Terry gets assigned to Tangela. The fun thing about a disobeying Terry is all 4 of her moves are attacks, and even Poison Sting should do okay damage to a Tangela if she decides to use a different move than the one I order. I even decided to order the kill with a Poison Sting, but she disobeyed me with a 3rd Body Slam. Whatever. Then against Vileplume, it can only be Lola. I open with a Psychic, but Lola uses Ice Beam instead. No harm, no foul. Except Vileplume clings to life. With only a sliver of health to go, Lola disobeys orders for several turns before finally acquiescing to a Psychic and massively overkilling to close out the battle. This badge solves the obedience problem until level 50, but this is the only time it comes close to mattering. I'm actually glad we got to see disobeying come up as a mechanic in this run. The devs designed it so your friend can't gift you a level 100 Mewtwo to steamroll the game, but it ended up hurting little old me out here just trying to do my best with my Lola and my Ducks and my Terry. We also get the Mega Drain TM, which I thought was important to save for later, but actually it doesn't matter much. There's one more unlock from the Rainbow Badge. It actually gets us early Lickitung. Not that anyone is asking for early Lickitung. The same way we fished up an illegal level 23 Poliwhirl, we can catch an illegal level 23 Slowbro. Head up Route 23, fittingly enough, toward Victory Road, and with 4 badges we're permitted to go far enough in to access the lake and fish for a Slowbro. This is the only way to get one in blue version without grinding the 1% encounter rate in the Seafoam Islands. Or, actually raising a Slowpoke. Now the game gives an important choice on how to proceed. Koga and Sabrina's Pokemon are the same levels. Koga ends up being easier to fight, but Sabrina is a lot closer physically. However, I'm looking for the developer intent here, so the fact that Koga's badge comes before Sabrina's on the trainer page is a strong tiebreaker for me. Shout out to Rigatoni Pasta on Reddit, a self-proclaimed extreme perfectionist who did similar deep research on what the game wants you to do first and concluded, in their words, IDFK. Unless I want Lola to solo the next 30 encounters and blast through the next disobedience cap, we need to spread out the poison coverage by getting Terry a ground move, which means doing Silphco. And to spread out the experience from doing Silphco, we're going to do the Fighting Dojo first and acquire a new Pokemon that we can dump XP into. Ducks and Lola have this place pretty well covered, but I tossed some XP to Rains and Terry as well. Against the Black Belt Master, Ducks handles his Hitmonlee, but that's mostly thanks to a lucky turn he wasted meditating. Against his second Pokemon, Hitmonchan, Terry is actually the play, as his only non-normal attack is Fire-type, which Terry resists. We're given a choice of fighting Pokemon after winning. Hitmonchan is really bad until physical and special moves were abstracted away from type in later generations, but Hitmonlee has enough attack and speed to be a real danger. Welcome Yuvan Liftbra, our 3rd permanent team member. With his highly accurate, non-self-damaging double kicks, we finally have a non-crappy answer for normal type opponents. Silphco is the massive 6th dungeon full of trainer fights and excellent loot. It's got 15 flyers for Rains, 9 rats for Yuvan, 29 poison and ground types for Lola, a handful of fighting for Ducks, and a smattering of electric for whoever needs the levels. And that's not double counting anything either, like I only counted Zubats as flying for Rains even though they could have also been considered poison. This is exactly why getting Lola was so critical early on. She just takes a big fart all over the mid-game. Did the most overpowered type, Psychic, really need poison types to be the most frequent opponent by a long shot? I seriously can't wrap my head around what the developers were thinking with the Psychic type. Then look at what they did to fighting, how late in the game it is before you can even get a single fighting move, and how there doesn't exist a single high-powered fighting move without a drawback between low accuracy or self-damage. I wonder if maybe fighting types tested really strong in development and they decided it needed a big nerf which came with a buff to Psychic. But in reality, my guess is they just wanted there to be a best type. After taking this one teleporter on floor 3 to a small room on floor 7, there's a rival battle. Snoopy has evolved his Kadabra to the most overpowered Pokemon in the entire game, Alakazam. And he's got Pidgeot and Charizard too now, I guess. Rains initiates the fight with a one-shot on Pidgeot. Ducks is our execute killer, though with barrier up, his fly does not do the damage we were hoping to see. Third is Gyarados, who has learned Hydro Pump by now, but we'll never see that because Rains again deletes it before it acts. His Alakazam comes out 4th, and without a real counter, I send out Lola here to defend. He just does a pointless recover before Ice Beam freezes him solid for a free kill. Good job, Lola. And his last is Charizard, who still only has Ember in the fire department. He's gained Flying type, so Rains gets him in 2, but that's because I forgot Terry's Rock Throw is actually 4x against him and would have been a better play. Snoopy's attitude starts to turn around after this fight. Having been beaten several times now by us, he's less of a dick and sees us more as a true opponent. Then, the Sylph employee who witnessed the fight gifts us a Lapras for rescuing his company. This is the intended Surfer, since it's given to us for free soon before we need to surf. Also, just look at it, this is closer to a pool floaty than a Pokemon. Welcome, Lil Boat. She has the stats to be a good ice type if you're not raising a Jinx. Now, Lola was not supposed to be our only poison killer for this long. Real talk, you may want to just keep around your Doug trio through this point. But the 10th floor finally gives us the Earthquake TM, a formidable ground move for Terry that spreads out the burden of poison coverage. Sylph also has a TM03 Swords Dance that you'll want to tuck away for later. Then, a jump scare. This random Drowsy pulls out Psychic out of nowhere. Once opponents start knowing this, it will be a lot harder to survive Psychic fights. And suddenly, we're fighting Giovanni a second time. His Nidorino goes down fast to Terry's Earthquake. Kangaskhan has an actual counter now in Yuvan, who gets him dead in 2 double kicks through some tail whips. Then, risking my lowered defense for some XP, I leave in Yuvan against a Rhyhorn, which is no problem. Double kick is not a very powerful move, but Yuvan sure makes it look like it is. Then, for the finale, it's his Nidoqueen against mine. Put it in reverse, Ter. He uses my own spell against me, Body Slam, but I've got the Earthquake tech he can only dream of. GG Giovanni. For defeating the dungeon, we're gifted a Master Ball. Then, I tried to deposit items and found I actually hit the storage limit on my PC. Oops. Skipping the Bicycle, Old Rod, and Sylph Scope would have helped, but I'm forced to eat some of the vitamins I was saving and sell some of the weaker restorative items. Keep your second Pokédoll though. With Rocket ousted from Sylph, the Mimic Girl's house is open. On the upper floor, give her the Pokédoll we've been holding since reaching Celadon, and she gives us a Junk TM. Now, we've still got to get to Fuchsia. Let's continue down the road we started for the Super Rod. This route is really 3 routes and a trench coat, and it's got a crazy amount of trainers. All in all, there's 38 flyers for Rains, Lola, and Terry, 24 poison for Lola and Terry, 10 normals for Yuvan, 7 water types at the beginning for Rains, and 8 grass types at the tail end for Ducks. I barely made it down in one try, using pretty much every single PP on Rains, Lola, and Terry's relevant moves, most of Ducks' Fly, and most of Yuvan's Double Kick. There's a handful of electric types I was giving to Yuvan since he's type neutral and still one-shot stuff like this Raichu without a crit. With Thunderbolts, Ice Beams, and Rock Throws fully depleted, I had to tag Ducks in against teams of Flyers at the end, where I had him Swords Dance and cut his way through the whole team. After dozens of fights, limp into the gate where this Oak Aid would gift an XP all for reaching 50 catches. This is the highest catch threshold besides the full Pokédex. Then at last, we're in Fuchsia City. First, visit the house of the final fishing brother and tell him, no, we don't like to fish. We're already dealing with inventory size issues and we don't need his poor-ass good rod clogging things up. Then, we're actually done with Rains now, so box him. We won't need electric coverage in the near future, and we need more space on the team right now for our secret anti-psychic tech. So, there's no true counter for Psychic in Pokémon Generation 1. Psychic Pokémon resist psychic damage, so one option is to use a Psychic Pokémon of your own who can tank hits and respond with attacks in a different type, like, say, Jinx with her Ice, or Hypno with its respectable attack stat and normal moves. A second, but less fun / as intended strategy for Psychic is just to outbeef them. A sturdy normal type with good attack to punish their lower defenses, like Snorlax or Kangaskhan, could work. Maybe even Lickitung if you wanted to force it to work with someone who comes from an NPC trade. Porygon might be the actual correct answer for Psychic types if that Pokemon has any purpose. This derp from the Celadon Game Corner. Because Porygon, normally a normal type Pokemon, has a special move called Conversion that changes his type to match his opponent's, which against Psychic types suddenly has him resisting their moves. Follow up with some powerful off-type move like Thunderbolt or Ice Beam and you've just wasted a turn building a shitty Jinx, haven't you? But it is clever. Instead, we're going to focus on Psychic type's only 2x weakness in the game, Bug. Pinsir or Scyther should be good candidates at first glance. High attack stat, decent speed, bug type. The only problem is they can't learn a single bug move ever. Okay, who can learn one? Twin Needle is not a bad attack, but it only comes on Beedrill, who, being a bug poison type, gets wrecked by psychic attacks. There's Pin Missile, also wasted on Beedrill, but that one can also be learned by Jolteon. Jolteon does not have good attack stat to capitalize, but his speed is among the few who can contend with the ultra-quick psychic Pokemon, and his special stat should be enough to help him survive a blow. The main blocker to using him for Sabrina is that he learns Pin Missile at level 48, which, no. There is one more bug move in the game, Leech Life, the 20 power move that Zubats have been tickling us with since Mount Moon. It's learned by Golbat and Venomoth, who share Beedrill's issue of being bug poison, but also by Parasect. By process of elimination, the only intended Sabrina killer in the game, besides Porygon, is Parasect. His attack stat is high enough to force Leech Life's low damage through, he's got decent HP and special to survive hits, and his types are Bug Grass, meaning Psychics won't one-shot him. Welcome to the team, Fork. He can even learn Swords Dance to superpower Leech Life, so spend that TM now, and I also gave him Mega Drain. While we're doing Safari Zone, do make sure to finish the path once for the Warden's Gold Teeth and the Surf HM. We also want to catch a Venonat for trade later. Once we're done catching, hand the Warden his Golden Teeth for the Strength HM, which we teach to Yuvan, mostly because he doesn't have much else to learn. Fork came in at level 25, so a couple levels before Sabrina's gym would be fantastic. Let's fly to Celadon and take the Cycle Road path now to Fuchsia for more Trainer Battle XP. It starts off with a Snorlax encounter that costs us almost every use of Leech Life to break through his arrests. Fork has a weird relationship with the Poison Pokemon on this route. Leech Life is super effective on Poison, but Poison moves are 4x against Fork. It's not a problem when they mostly use Tackle and Pound at these levels, but once they gain Smog, it's iffy, and Sludge is much too much. Fork does resist fighting moves though, so he does okay Mega Draining these Machops and Mankeys. It's grindy, but this route is a decent place to bring Fork up to level parity. At level 30, he learns Spore and can really start being degenerate. Spore puts the opponent to sleep with 100% accuracy, and it's a move unique to Parasect. As long as he can tank one hit from his opponent, Spore gives Fork the chance to Swords Dance 2 or 3 times to massively raise his attack and sweep a team of Poison or Psychic types with Leech Life. Before you point out that other Pokemon can pull off a Swords Dance sweep, keep in mind that the goal of this video is to tech against the game, not just to brute force it. I really wanted to answer, what's the deal with Psychic types, and showcase, perhaps with a bit of satire, the game's only solution for dealing with the Psychic problem that it itself created. And did I say bring Slowbro with you? Bring Slowbro. At the butt end of Cycling Road, upstairs in the guard tower, a man offers his Lickitung Mark for our Slowbro. Like with Jinx, it's crazy how long Lickitung is gatekept if you're playing the game normally, seeing as how it's not even very good. Mark can cover Surf and Strength and Cut, and learn Fire Blast for coverage, but like, it's just a worse Kangaskhan, Clefable, Tauros, or Snorlax. Bin Mark for Lil Boat since we'll be surfing soon, and head in to fight Koga. It's literally been like 200 trainers since our last gym. The subordinate trainers in this alleged poison gym are mostly Psychic types, so they're still good practice for Fork. Juggler AI likes to waste turns shuffling their Pokemon around, which gives us a lot of freedom to set up degen Spore combos. Arbok is pretty safe for Fork too, and Sand Slashes get hit with Mega Drains. Then we're ready to face Koga. Don't try to force Fork here, this is Lola and Terry's show. I gave them each 2 of his 4 Pokemon to Psychic and Earthquake down, and this battle went very fast. Terry got a Coughing and a Muck, Lola got a Coughing and a Wheezing. For winning, we're allowed to use Surf outside of combat, which is worth a net 4,500 Poké Gold if you visit the Safari Zone again to surf for a Nugget. I allowed myself to get a little sequence breaky again before Sabrina. We have 2 more Pokemon to add to the team, and I could either do 2 back-to-back right after Sabrina or get 1 after and 1 now. So set sail south from Pallet Town aboard the SS Lil Boat. The trainers on this route are still lower level than Sabrina. It's a bunch of water types that Fork can Mega Drain and some Tentacruels who lose to Leech Life. Fork dinged 39 on this stretch, which brought up the chance to learn Slash. His speed and therefore crit rate is so low that Slash is not even particularly anti-synergistic with Swords Dance, so I ditch Mega Drain for Slash. Land on Cinnabar Island, heal up, and deposit Lil Boat, but retrieve the Helix fossil. Ammonite, later Omastar, is our 5th permanent team member and our replacement Surfer. He's a water/rock type who cannot actually learn any rock moves, but he walls the poison and hard counters the fire types present on this island, making his acquisition here very much a carefully placed Pokemon. Welcome, Gabumon. Lola dominates the mid-game, but Gabumon is king of the endgame as he stonewalls Blaine's gym, much of Giovanni's, and has the largest amount of Elite Four Pokemon covered of anyone on the team. But this little guy comes in at level 30, so I'm glad that we got him a little bit early. Bring an escape rope, it's time for Fork's main event. Supporting Sabrina are 4 Psychics and 3 Channelers. The strat has legs. Fork is sweeping whole teams here with Leech Lives after a little setup, and the HP regain softens the downside of acting second. The Channelers I give to Terry since they have ghosts, and I do some swapping here with Gabumon to kickstart his growth. Then, against Sabrina, Fork just does the thing, and it's beautiful. Spore, Swords Dance, which, mind you, I only have to bother with to compensate for the 20 base power of Leech Life, and then sweep her team with a single Leech Life apiece, even her Alakazam. Did Fork end up too high level for this? Yes. I caught him at 25 and got kinda carried away catching him up to my other overleveled Pokemon, but I mean, I haven't done any grinding since those levels at the start of the game on Taco. This is all naturally occurring XP from fighting trainers. For what it's worth, my friend Ricochet, who helped me with the planning for this run, did a playthrough too and said the strategy was flawless with his level 34 Parasect, so maybe in hindsight, don't bother with the early Cinnabar trip. Escape rope out afterwards since the warp pads are annoying, and grab your Master Ball. It's time to finish out the team. Cut your way east of Cerulean one more time and surf down to the power plant. One Pokemaniac guards the entrance with a Rhyhorn and Lickitung that Juven Liftbra decimates. Toss on a Repel and loot your way through the building. It's fine to trigger the trap Voltorbs and Electrodes if you have Terry in front to Earthquake them away. Do not miss TM25, Thunder, which I think is a nice coincidence that this TM number is the same as Pikachu's Pokédex number. Then, in the deepest back room, encounter Zapdos, an electric flying-type Pokemon who's going to replace Ducks for us and makes Final Fantasy XIII Lightning return to the team. This one is confusingly named Pikachu on a patron request, and I'm passing the confusion on to you. Flying and Electric drop off a little in the late game, except for Gyarados', but in truth, I had to work the Master Ball into this playthrough somehow, and among the 3 legendary birds, Pikachu is the only one who makes any sense because there are Gyarados' to slaughter. We're also done with Cut, so don't worry about that. With this swap, our team is now set for the rest of the game, save Gabumon's coming evolution. Put him in the team. This guy is way too big for the overlay though, dang. Let's close out the other sea route to Cinnabar from Fuchsia. While only neutral matchups, the large amount of water Pokemon on this route is the best chance we'll get to bring Juven up to party level. Horsies and Poliwags lose to a single double kick. Use Strength against Tentacruels and Staryus so that they won't resist it, and the higher damage but less accurate Jump Kick against Sea Kings to take them out in one since this species knows the flying move Peck. After beating up a few dozen fish, we reach the Seafoam Islands with Juven at level 43 abreast of the party. Truly, there's next to nothing for us in Seafoam. Dugong is a compelling Ice-type choice, but it's competing with Omastar and Jinx, which is rough. Plus, we would rather raise a seal from a coming trade. No, we're just here to assassinate Articuno with Pikachu because it's funny. Then surf the rest of the way to Cinnabar, minding this one-trick bird trainer, and we're ready to show off Gabumon. Bring with you an Ultra Ball, one of which was just free loot in Seafoam, to the Pokémon Mansion. The first floor here has Ponytas, which is the final thing that we need to catch for a trade. There are only a couple of trainers in here, but they're good, nutritious food for Gabumon. Burglars use fire types that his Surf crushes, and we finally even have a good match for exploding Electrodes since his rock type resists that. There's a TM for Blizzard in here, which I pop on Gabumon, not Lola. This promotes him from being good against the Elite Four to being excellent against the Elite Four. Get the secret key in the furthest reaches of the mansion and escape rope out, which again the dungeon has provided for us. Outside, grab all our trade fodder from the PC. It's time to close out the last 3 NPC trades. All of them are done in the lab where we got Gabumon. The first wants our old Raichu, Dan Flashes, for an Electrode named Doris. How cute is that? Doris is a fine electric main if you have not yet blown your Thunderbolt TM. Next, a woman wants our Venonat from the Safari Zone in exchange for her Tangela named Crinkles. I thought these NPC trade names were so cringe as a kid, but come on, Crinkles is very cute. Any utility grass types had is long gone by now, but it is a nice touch that the Solar Beam TM did come from the recent Pokemon Mansion if you want to force grass to work. And the final trait of the game, this scientist wants our just-caught Ponyta for his seal named Sailor. I noticed while planning this run that Ice type is very important in the Elite Four, and 2 of the game's trades set you up with Ice Pokemon, plus they straight up gift you a Lapras. I want to give them credit. It seems that the game may be trying to intentionally equip us for Lance, especially if you count Doris. Having done every trade in the game, I want to throw together a quick tier list of the trades. Lola is clearly at the top, especially if you make an effort to get her earlier. Dux and Marcel are good at their jobs, come early, and are worth the effort. Their only problem is that there are better choices within the role. Terry and Spot, remember Spot, are powerful trades, but their redundancy and the fact that you can easily catch your own lower them a bit. Sailor is a fine trade too, just late. Doris is a good Pokemon, but if you have a Raichu to trade, it's 95% likely that you don't have the Thunderbolt TM saved for her this late. There's also some good competition for the electric role. And in the bottom, Mark is unique but mediocre, and requiring a Slowbro on Cycling Road is outrageous. Crinkles is mostly down here paying for what the developers did to Grass type, and you've also probably long blown your Mega Drain TM on somebody else. Alright, Blaine's gym is up, and Gabumon gets to absolutely embarrass them. There are 7 subordinate trainers in this gym who fight you if you answer quiz questions incorrectly, so I beef all the quizzes on purpose, answering no, yes, 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 no, yes. Nobody here has a single attack that isn't defended by Gabumon, and he retaliates with Surfs for massive damage. The most dangerous thing an opponent can do here is Confuse Ray with a Vulpix, but Gabumon is actually resilient to self-harm via confusion thanks to his low attack and high defense. There's not much tech here other than to keep blasting. Surf only has 15 PP and there are 20 Pokemon to beat, so even if they're all one-shots, you'll either need an Ether or to water down your moves, pun intended, with some water guns in order to conserve PP for Blaine. I've never been a horse enjoyer, but damn, Rapidash do be majestic. The ease with which this low-level, unevolved Pokemon tramples Blaine is evidence how plainly correct he was to bring here. So correct, I seem to have broken Blaine's AI. After surfing down his Growlithe in 1, he wastes a turn super potioning his untouched Ponyta before I surf her down too. Rapidash is out of range of a single surf and traps me in a Fire Spin that crits for a whole 3 damage, applied thrice. Against his level 47 Arcanine, I open with Surf and he opens with another extraneous Super Potion. Since one Surf wasn't lethal, I assume that he might potion again, so I queue up another Surf. I'm correct, but that still wasn't lethal, and he devastates me with a critical hit Fire Blast for 32 whole damage. Gabumon just soloed this entire gym. The prize for winning is the Fire Blast TM. Malort would have loved this, but really nobody benefits from it at this point in the game. Oh, did you think Gabumon only gets to dominate one gym? Honey, we're just getting started. Have Pikachu fly to Viridian City, where the gym is suddenly accessible. Let's bring the surf to their turf. This gym is allegedly ground type, but the subordinate trainers here have a pretty big type spread. There are 2 Rhyhorns for Gabumon to surf down, and 3 poison types, which he takes almost no damage from as he counterattacks neutrally. One of these is Nidoking, a poison ground type, where our Blizzard starts to show its value. This XP takes our boy to 40, meaning an evolution to Omastar and the final change to our lineup. Also, a bunch of fighting types go to Lola, who has not seen a lot of play recently. Then it's time for our final gym leader showdown and our 3rd battle against Giovanni. By now he has dropped the Kangaskhan in order to fully represent the ground type. He leads with a Rhydon, and you know we eat those up like candy. Dugtrio is one Pokemon we have to tag in Lola for, since their high-speed digs could actually hurt Gabu, but Lola crushes it with an Ice Beam. His 3rd is Nidoqueen, which Gabumon drops to a sliver through a guard spec with a huge Blizzard, and as a coup de grace actually pulls off a freeze for a free kill next turn. Then imagine my mirth when the exact same thing happens with his Nidoking. Nidoking even missed the tackle beforehand as an added embarrassment. Then Rhydon could actually hurt Gabumon if he lands the one-hit KO move Fisher, except we outspeed him and send him packing with a 4x Surf for an easy 8th gym badge and another gym crushed by Gabumon. And he's still not done. Leave him in first position. Walk west of town for the penultimate rival encounter in exactly the same spot where Taco had to solo his Pidgey and Charmander at the start of the game. That Pidgeot is still around and it's allergic to blizzards. Next is a Rhyhorn, which you know. 3rd is his Execute, which actually goes to Fork. As a grass psychic type, bug moves are 400% effective against Execute, and I don't even bother Swords Dancing to take him out in 2 leech lives. His 4th is a Gyarados. While Gabumon or Lola need the XP more, let's test out the power of Pikachu. Oh yes, that will do. The boogeyman Alakazam is 5th, who by now has learned the devastating psychic move, Psychic. But Fork runs his Degen combo and pulls it off without a hitch. Last, his Charizard has finally learned Flamethrower by now, dealing a whopping 11 damage to Gabumon, who slams him with a surface-to-air Blizzard. Somehow not resisted by his Fire Half, but because I'm a whole 11 levels below him, I do need a follow-up Surf to win. All that remains now is Victory Road and the Elite Four. The highest enemy levels in the game reach 65, and our party currently is 42 through 45, plus Pikachu, who came in at 50. That's a large gulf to span, and it makes me feel not at all bad for claiming all that XP in the mid-game that had us kinda strong for Sabrina. In truth, Gabumon and Pikachu alone could probably sweep, but that's less fun than letting everyone on my team show off why I chose to bring them this far. The only important item to bring to Victory Road are repels. This is one of the more engaging dungeons because the enemy trainers are highly diverse, so everyone on the team gets to participate. I'd been stuck in the mindset that Yuvan Liftbra was lagging behind the party, but he actually has a lot of work to do in here, and he ended up leading the non-Pikachus at 47 by the end. He handled a few Persians, a Lickitung, got to shatter some ice types, and even one-tapped a Chansey. Fork swept a whole team of Psychics from this juggler, plus a stray high-level Mime. Gabumon had several fire types to hard counter, Lola ate some fighting types and a Tentacruel. Terry did not get as much in here since I gave the fire to Gabumon, but I let her have some grass poison types at the end. And Pikachu? Well, he ate this Golduck, but also the third legendary bird, Moltres, lives down here. After an awkward first turn missing each other, he pew-pewed her down in one thunder. I don't think there's any justifying Moltres in your team comp since most of what it could punish happened earlier in the game, and its two types are largely redundant with each other for coverage. Just a few more steps and we've reached Indigo Plateau, home to the Elite Four, plus Snoopy. A benefit from beating every trainer in the game is we've got a fair bit of cash by now to spend on vitamins if we take a quick trip to the Celadon department store. Now, neither you nor me really need specifics on what everyone got. I just mostly emphasized everyone's strengths and tried to boost speed on any Pokemon that will be in tight speed contests. Pitter patter, let's get at her. The biggest reason I combined my electric and flying types into Pikachu, besides feeling pressure to use the Master Ball, was so we had a 6th slot free for Yuvin. He's definitely the easiest to live without if we were forced to only carry 5 Pokemon. Fighting does not have a lot of targets in the game, but it sure is good at beating up ice Pokemon, so the first Elite Four fight, the Ice Trainer Lorelei, is Yuvin's show to run. Her Dugong's AI is actually programmed to hit us with a super effective move if she has one, and Dugong does know a psychic move. Rest. This causes her to waste 6 turns resting while we meditate up our attack, then just glance at this thing for it to keel over. Her second Pokemon, Cloyster, has the same typing. I'm sure Double Kick would have been plenty, but we just learned High Jump Kick, so I rolled that out here for a beauty of a one-shot. Now, after using 6 Meditates, we could power through any bad matchup, but this Slowbro does belong to Fork. Even a Parasect is faster than a Slowbro, guaranteeing permanent sleep from Spore while I dance thrice and leech twice to win. Lorelei's fourth is an Uber Pokemon, Jinx. She has no psychic attacks, just Ice Punch, which Yuvin survives, then counters with a nasty high jump kick crit to thankfully bury her before she gets to act twice. Then Lorelei's final Pokemon is a Lapras. Yuvin's first attack missed, damaging himself for 1, and Lapras applied confusion. But Yuvin saw through the brain fog like a boss and one-shot her with a high jump kick next turn. After dismantling Lorelei, Yuvin Lifbra's job is done. He does have utility against Bruno, but he does have to share the spotlight. I let Terry handle Bruno's Onix, which goes away in 1 critical hit from an Earthquake. Then his Hitmonchan is awkward. No one Pokemon can resist his Ice, Thunder, and normal attacks, but that doesn't matter when Lola outspeeds him with a Psychic one-hit. Bruno's got a Hitmonlee of his own next that Pikachu is a hard counter for outside of Mega Kick. 1 Fly is enough to take him out because Hitmonlees don't really come with much defense. Fourth is a repeat of the Onix-Terry matchup, but this one takes 2 Earthquakes because I don't land the crit. And his last is Machamp, whom Pikachu fully counters. His only non-fighting attack is the one-hit KO move Fisher, but as a flying type, this has no effect on Pikachu. In fact, I think I broke his AI here because he kept blowing X defense instead of attacking. Agatha is the third Elite Four member, trainer of Ghosts. Her first Gengar is the sketchiest fight of the series because Gengar acts very fast and hits us hard with a Nightshade. Luckily, he wasted turn 2 on a Dream Eater and we're in the clear. Golbat is second. This is not a tough foe, but Pikachu nevertheless zaps him in 1. Haunter is third with the same moves as the first Gengar, but with lower speed, so Lola takes this out in 2 Psychics through a Super Potion. Arbok is fourth, whom Terry almost fully counters, but for its normal bite attack. Harry's attack stat is not as busted as others, so 1 Earthquake does not get there, but a follow-up Body Slam does. Agatha's final Pokemon is a Gengar with Hypnosis swapped out for Toxic, which it does stick on Fork turn 1, so he's now on the clock to bag this ghost. After a single dance, it's clear we're going to need more damage, so I dance a second time and squeeze in 3 Leech Lives for lethal as Toxic has the Reaper knocking on my door. The Elite Four has been going so smoothly, and we're already on to fight Dragon Master Lance. Dragon types with their 4 times weakness to ice have silently dictated a lot of this run. Seriously, the Jinx versus Lapras choice pretty much determined the other 5 Pokemon around it. Lance begins not with a dragon, but with a Gyarados, who is firmly Pikachu territory. My team is on fire with these high damage, low accuracy moves, having not missed a single time since that high jump kick on Lapras. Lance's next 2 Pokemon are identical Dragonairs, which only have normal type attacks outside of Dragon Rage, meaning Gabumon is almost a hard counter and he easily wipes them out. His 4th Pokemon is also hard countered by Gabumon, Aerodactyl. He leads with a cheeky Hyper Beam, a massively damaging normal type move that deals us a whopping 22 damage. Then Blizzard grounds this pesky bat. Lance's 6th and final Pokemon is a Big Boss Dragonite. This one belongs to Lola, who wins with a single low-effort Ice Beam against the dragon 13 levels her superior. This is the only point that I had to heal up the team, aside from curing Fork's poison, since this has all been a single take on my first try without saving, and I don't want to lose now. By blowing some marginal heals, I actually almost perfectly use up the last of those fresh waters all the way from the Celadon rooftop. Now that was good estimation. Then it's all come down to this, the final fight of the game, a showdown with Snoopy. My best 6 against his, and we're a solid 11 or more levels below. Snoopy opens up with his Pidgeot, who's been with him the whole game. Gabumon does not get her in a single blizzard, so I take a hit before surfing to win. This got him to level 49 to learn Hydro Pump, which, like, sure. Snoopy's second Pokemon is what our whole insane Parasect gambit has been leading up to. Alakazam opens with a Recover while we Spore. He's awake next turn as we Swords Dance, meaning he gets in a nasty Psychic as we reapply Sleep. Honestly, I don't think I even needed to Spore the second time, since a single dance-boosted Leech Life does astonishing damage. With a second Leech, the most problematic Pokemon in the whole game is handled. Rhydon is third, now evolved from Rhyhorn. This is Gabumon's final task, so I have some fun with it and allow him a cheeky Hydro Pump for style. Thanks for not missing, bud. Executor is fourth, finally evolved from Execute, and Fork is very happy to punish the 4X bug weakness again. Just 1 Swords Dance and 2 enormous Leech Lives, like with Alakazam. Fifth is another Gyarados, you know how these go. We're on a roll with Thunder's hitting. And his final Pokemon is, of course, Charizard, long past its usefulness, seeing as how we ditched Taco by like the halfway point. Terry is the clear responsible party here, since rock moves are 4x against fire flying, and she resists both of his fire attacks. He just uses a sad rage while big stones take us home, 17 levels below him. Overall, this team had a strong plan for every Pokemon in the Elite Four, save maybe Lorelei's Jinx, and I was even able to work it out nicely so that every member of the team handled either 4 or 5 opponents. Mind you, Gabumon could have handled alone like 15 if I didn't spread things out on purpose. And that is Pokémon Generation 1 played as Game Freak intended. So, should you play Red or Blue? Well, Sandshrew is an acceptable surge counter in Blue, but free Dugtrios kind of eclipse that. Vulpix is strictly better than Growlithe, considering Flamethrower, but does it really matter with Fire being so disadvantaged? The Nidoran stuff is a wash, since the less common one in whichever version is the one easily purchased at the game corner. So it mostly comes down to, if you're interested in completing the Pokédex, then the right answer is Blue, because Porygon is a few thousand cheaper at the game corner. That's it. Cheap Porygon in Blue version. Solved. Regarding types, Electric, Psychic, Ice, and Ground shine above all the others in Gen 1 due to the number of opponents that they affect, as well as power against the Elite Four. Fire and Grass are pretty bad throughout the entire game, despite having good movesets. Then, several more types are worse than they should be simply for lack of moves in Gen 1, such as Bug, Rock, and Fighting. Game Freak did evolve the type chart next generation, but more important than tweaking the matchups, they changed moves drastically to make more sense, like Gust be Flying and Karate Chop be Fighting. Those felt like oversights in Gen 1. That and the utter lack of a non-meme counter for Psychic Pokemon. Pokemon games are not hard, but this carefully assembled team feels like an Ocean's 11 group of highly skilled operatives working together to collectively crack Red-Blue wide open. Not only does it balance types, but I took care with the pacing, making decisions like using Ivysaur and Spearow in the early game, transitioning more to Psychic and Ground once the poison enemies exploded, and adding Water in time for Blaine and Giovanni. When you reason the games out on a timeline like this, the 150 available Pokemon pool narrows down significantly to a much smaller pool of realistic choices. There are several fine examples of a tight 6 for beating the game, but I'm pretty confident in this team as the single best team for playing Pokemon, Blue, as intended. My closest runner-up team would probably be Executor, Zapdos, Nidoqueen, Clefable, Lapras, Hitmonlee, but I like the Jinx and the Parasect arcs too much not to run them. Overall, Bulbasaur is the meta starter and handles the game well through Rock Tunnel. Then, for the overall team comp, you want a Flyer for the early and mid game, but somebody should always know Fly, so your Flyer will stick around. You don't need Water until Blaine, but then it's extremely good in the late game. Ground crushes Surge, takes a small vacation, then crushes the mid and late game. Electric is excellent against random trainers throughout the whole game and the Elite Four, and of course, Ice is excellent, but mostly comes late. The game is screaming at you to have an Ice type for the final gym and the Elite Four. Pick a team with these 4 types covered, fill in the blanks making sure HMs are covered, and you've got a meta build for Gen 1. Psychic type, while strong, is actually not needed since I would say Ground is more important and Ground can cover poison for us. Fighting is only okay. You mostly want it for the early game, but it takes a while to become available. I know I ran Hitmonlee for Lorelei, but your Electric type can handle her too. and everything else is either redundant or weak, purely in terms of PvE type matchups. Achieving the in-game trades was extremely fun, and it kind of made me want to try a run that uses only them. Overall, most of the trades actually were completable at the time you first encounter them, with Poliwhirl as a major exception. Before researching it, some of these trades always felt completely inscrutable, like the Slowbro and the Venonat, but going in with foreknowledge, everyone except Poliwhirl felt well designed, and honestly, that would have been fine if they just gave us the Good Rod in Vermilion. We ended up with 34 in the Pokédex, which actually is enough for the item finder from the Oak Aid, and it's a high enough number to be proud of and feel like we actually did engage with the Pokédex quest to a fine degree. Thank you so much for watching this beast of a video. It was a blast to research and very fun to play, and I hope you appreciated the team overlay and the scrolling background that I cooked up for this. A like or a kind comment on the video would really help me out. If this video does well, I'd be very interested in making a follow-up video on Yellow version or even Gen 2. There are actually some choices for psychic answers there. Big thank you to my patrons for your continued support, as well as for your help naming my ragtag team. Naming my Zapdos Pikachu was devious. I post updates on my work over there, and little behind-the-scenes vlogs about my larger videos if you'd like to join as a supporter. It's a good time. And I'm live on Twitch weekly on Sunday evenings, where I usually play smaller games if you'd like to come say hello between uploads. Stay tuned for more playing of games in weird, hyper-fixated ways, and subscribe if you want to catch new videos when they release. That's about it. Peace out, Girl Scout.